Broadcasting live from Jackson and State in Chicago's Loop, it's Radio DePaul Sports and Entertainment.
You're listening to RDSE, where sports and showbiz meet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSE. I'm your host, Michael Lyons, and it has been a huge week in the NBA this week. We'll start off with my Sacramento Kings. The Kings are now 10-3 under Doug Christie, with their last win since last Friday being against the Wizards and the Warriors, both at home, and a tough loss to the Nuggets in Denver. The Kings are now 7-0 at home under Doug Christie and 2-0 against the Warriors. These guys are playing for Doug. I mean, it could be 100% possible that Mike Brown just lost the locker room, because 10-3 with a coach that's never been a head coach before in the NBA just steps in. And I mean, we went on a 3-game winning streak after losing to the Bucks, all 3 games at home, beating the Rockets, beating the Wizards, a 123-100 victory on, I believe, Saturday or Sunday. I mean, let's just look at the box score. The Wizards, obviously a bottom team in the East, nothing crazy for them. Jonas Valanciunas off the bench gave them 23, but the starters, Kyle Kuzma was the highest scorer, shooting only 3 for 15 and having 13 points. Bilal Coulibaly continuing to have a strong year in Washington, despite it being so chaotic and tiresome for these young guys to be there. Bub Carrington's still struggling. Alex Sarr struggled this game against Sabonis. Keyshawn George off the bench did not do much. Corey Kispert, he was another spark plug off the bench with Jonas Valanciunas, but their young guys are just not giving them enough right now, and it's mostly because of Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, like those guys taking shots away. I mean, 3 for 15 from Kuzma, 4 for 11 from Poole, and then Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly only shooting 1 for 8 and 3 for 9, and then Bub Carrington shooting 2 for 5. They need more shots. They need to play with a faster pace, I believe, because these young Wizards players, they like to play with pace, and sometimes Kuzma slows the ball down a little too much. Jordan Poole, when he is playing fast, he can be strong, but also he's inconsistent. Now we'll go over to the Kings during this game. Sabonis, another double-double, 29 points, 18 rebounds. DeMar DeRozan, 24 points on 9 for 21 shooting, so not a great shooting night for him. Keegan Murray continuing to struggle, 0 for 5 from the three-point line, only having 4 points. De'Aaron with a double-double, 12 points, 13 assists, and then Malik Monk with 23 points on 8 for 15 shooting. He had a crazy, crazy windmill dunk in this game, but Keegan Murray is the biggest question mark right now with the Sacramento Kings, and like, he is Sacramento's guy, and I love Keegan Murray, but he's continued to struggle this year, and I think it could be a sense of him not getting enough shots. I mean, only shooting 2 for 8, and everybody else is in double-digit shooting. I mean, obviously, when you're playing next to De'Aaron, DeMar, and Sabonis, you're not going to get as many shots. And then when Malik Monk is also in that starting lineup, he's a scorer. So Keegan Murray just needs to continue to do his job. 2 steals and a block on the defensive end. But, I mean, eventually his offense will get there, but it's strugglesome right now. But also off the bench this game, we saw Keon Ellis give us 18, 6 for 8 shooting, 6 for 8 from the three-point line. Keon is, since the Mike Brown firing and Doug Christie coming into position to be head coach for the Sacramento Kings, Keon Ellis has been a star for us. Now we'll move on to their other win since Friday, which was against the Golden State Warriors. 2-0 against the Warriors now under Doug Christie. This game, we saw Steph Curry shoot 6 for 11, 14 points, but we were trapping Steph Curry. We were not giving him any space. He had 3 turnovers this game, but we were not giving him any space. Buddy Hield back in Sacramento, 17 points on 6 for 12 shooting, so not a bad game from Buddy Hield. We'll dive a little bit deeper into his season in a little bit. Andrew Wiggins led the team in scoring with 25, 8 for 20 shooting, but Kevon Looney gave you zeros. Gary Payton Jr. gave you 8. Off the bench, Gui Santos gave you 16, which he's been solid for them when he's played. Dennis Schroeder's still continuing to struggle in Golden State. Moses Moody still not panning out. They were without Jonathan Kuminga this game and no Draymond Green, so could have been a little different, the 123-117 victory. But on the Kings side, I mean, we did not play great. De'Aaron Fox had 14 points, 10 of those points coming from the free throw line, where then he shot 2 for 11 from the field. Sabonis and DeMar really led this game. 32 points for DeMar, 26 points for Sabonis. Another double-double for Sabonis, obviously. Double-double King. Malik Monk gave you 20, so solid game from him. Keegan Murray, 13, but still struggling to shoot from the three-point line, like I've continued to say. Keon Ellis off the bench gave you 8. Devin Carter still continuing to struggle scoring the ball, but he gives us solid minutes. He's a good role player, good hustle guy for us. Kevin Huerter didn't give us much. Alex Len didn't give us much. Trey Lyles, solid game, but we were a 7-man lineup, and so Alex Len, Kevin Huerter, and Devin Carter all played under 8 minutes. Then in the game last night against the Denver Nuggets, the 132-123 loss to the Nuggets in Denver. Sabonis and DeMar again led the way. Sabonis 23 points, 19 rebounds, again another double-double for him. DeMar 24 points, Keegan Murray 11 points on a little bit better shooting for the three-point line. De'Aaron struggled to shoot again. Malik Monk, not a great game from him, 15 points, but nothing crazy. Keon, 6 points off the bench. Doug McDermott came in this game, 5 threes, 15 points for us. And another crazy thing that happened in this game was to get a triple-double for Nikola Jokic, he threw a full-court buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter, which gave him a triple-double. But Nikola Jokic obviously can't stop him. 35 points, 22 rebounds, 17 assists. Amazing game from Jokic. Nobody can guard that man. Sabonis, obviously, he's not a great defender, so I knew we were going to struggle this game against a star center like Nikola Jokic. But some other guys came up to play for them in the starters. Christian Braun gave him 21 on 8 for 14 shooting, so a solid game from him. 2 steals and a block. Michael Porter Jr., 20 points, but not solid shooting. Russ gave you 18. Jamal Murray both gave you 18. And off the bench, Julian Strawther led the way with 9. Aaron Gordon still coming back from an injury. He played 17 minutes, got 3 points. This was just a case of them having the better star player, and we just couldn't really keep up with them. Obviously, when you play against a guy like Nikola Jokic, it's so tough to guard him. But, Sabonis, on the other hand, is also sneakily having an amazing season, leading the league in three-point percentage and rebounds, along with averaging 6 assists and shooting 60% from the field. On the offensive side of the ball, for Domantas Sabonis, he cannot be stopped by anybody right now, to be honest. It's just that defensive side, we don't have anybody to guard a Nikola Jokic, any of these big men in the West, Victor Wembanyama. Like, we don't have anybody to guard them. So we're going to struggle in the playoffs and play in if we have to play a star big man. But we can score the basketball. It's more just about defense night in and night out. Like, Kings, since Mike Brown, we have always been a high-scoring team, and it hasn't really changed with Doug Christie. The defense has looked a little bit better, and the hustle has looked a lot better, but you're not going to beat a team like the Denver Nuggets with hustle because they don't get themselves into positions where they need to hustle. They have a lot of hustle guys, but nothing crazy for them. And then again, this week we saw Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, between Nikola Jokic and Shea for that MVP this year, I believe, drops a career-high 54 points against the Utah Jazz, and the Thunder are still sitting at the top of the Western Conference with a record of 36-7. Now, 36-8, they lost last night to the Dallas Mavericks, and in their last 4 games, they've lost to the Mavericks twice. So, their first loss to the Mavericks was a 106-98 loss, and then last night they lost to the Mavericks 121-115. Is that a sign that, I mean, if you meet the Mavericks in the playoffs, I mean, this Mavericks team is still without Luka Doncic, and you lose to them twice? I mean, the Thunder were still without Chet Holmgren, but, I mean, you have Shea, you have J-Dub, Dort was playing, Casey Wallace. Like, you have most of your guys. I mean, obviously you're missing Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, so that's a big loss for your team. But, I mean, if you look at the Mavericks, it was Kyrie Irving and Spencer Dinwiddie really killed you. P.J. Washington gave them a solid game last night. Kessler Edwards was in the starting lineup, ex-Kings guy. But, I mean, this is just a case of two teams that will probably meet in the playoffs, and I think this is people are going to come in with the narrative that, the Mavericks beat the Thunder this many times in the regular season, like we need to be worried. But also, I mean, it could because, I mean, they lost twice and the Mavericks were without Luka Doncic, but I would love to see a Dallas Mavericks, OKC Thunder, fully healthy lineups, playoff series. I think that goes to 6-7 games, and, I mean, you don't really know who's coming out with that. I would take money on the Thunder just because I think this is their year, if they're fully healthy, to win it all. But, I mean, Mavericks were in the finals last year, basically the same team, plus Klay Thompson whenever he's coming back. So, I mean, it could go either way. Again, we'll get more into this 54-point game from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. 54 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists against the Utah Jazz, where he shot 17 for 35 from the field. J-Dub was the second leading scorer with 25 points. And then the bench didn't really give him much besides Alex Caruso and Casey Wallace. Nothing crazy from this game. It was just Shea took over and the Jazz could not keep up with it. But, I mean, they only lost by 9. Solid game from John Collins, who's still trying to look to get shipped out of Utah. Lauri Markkanen, not a great game from Lauri, but nothing crazy. Walker Kessler, double-double. Colin Sexton, 18 points. He also needs to get out of Utah. Keontae George continuing to struggle shooting, but 15 points, so he made up. Bench didn't give him much. Now we'll move on to the East, where the Cavs are sitting with the same record of 36-7 after a heartbreaking loss to the Rockets, where Darius Garland choked at the free throw line, missing 2 of 3 free throws to tie the game. Now, in their last 3 games since the last podcast, they beat the Timberwolves on Friday night, beat the Suns, and then lost to the Rockets, obviously, which was this very heartbreaking loss. I mean, 109-108 loss to the Houston Rockets. Darius Garland goes for a 3-point shot at the end of, I think there was 3 seconds left maybe, and then he got fouled with 1 second. And he has all 3 shots, and they're down 107-109 at the time of that foul. He just needs to make all 3, but he misses 2, and it ends up with a 109-108 victory for the Houston Rockets. And then in this game, Darius Garland led the way with 26 points. Not great shooting, 10 for 21. Donovan Mitchell, 19 points, 7 for 21 from the field. Jared Allen, they had no Evan Mobley tonight. Ty Jerome gave him 18 off the bench. But the Rockets were led by Fred VanVleet, who had 26. Alperen Şengün with a double-double. Amen Thompson, 16 points. 4 steals, but he had 5 turnovers. Cam Whitmore, 16 points off the bench. This this Rockets team, I continue to say it, and like they're making signs of they're going to be a tough team to beat in the coming years, but I think they need to package some of these younger guys to get a star. I mean, they're in the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes, but they're not really. I mean, if they could maybe get Lauri Markkanen maybe to complete that starting lineup, you go like a Fred, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Lauri Markkanen, Şengün, or Jabari could jump into the starting lineup and you put Lauri at like a 3-man like they did with the Cavs back in the day when they had Jarrett Allen, Lauri Markkanen, and Evan Mobley. I mean, that's a tough team to beat, and I would love to see Lauri in Houston, but I don't see them packaging a lot of these younger guys to make that trade. Now, since we talked about Jimmy Butler has been suspended once again, this time for missing the team flight and his second time since the start of the year. This time for 7 games. This time for 2 games. The first time was for 7 games. Jimmy, also in their game against the Trailblazers, was seen rocking a Suns colorway of his signature shoe. Is this a sign that Jimmy Butler will do whatever he will do to get out of Miami? I mean, I saw a thing. I don't know if I just saw it on Instagram, but I saw that he told Pat Riley to lace him up and he'll 1v1 him. I don't know how much I believe that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Butler would say that. But, I mean, got to respect Pat Riley a little bit more. Odds are still the best with the Suns being the landing spot for Jimmy, with also the Rockets and the Mavs still being seen with a slight chance. Suns have also loaded up on some draft picks and their unprotected first in 2031 for the least favorable in 2025 between the Jazz, Cleveland, and Minnesota. Then a 2027 pick between Cleveland and Minnesota, which is the least favorable. And then 2029, again, least favorable, Cleveland, Minnesota, and Utah. So it basically means they trade 1 pick for these 3 first-round picks. But whatever pick is worse goes to the Suns, and whatever pick is best goes to Utah. Now, I mean, it's not anything crazy, but it's just to make the trade for Jimmy Butler sound a little bit better, giving up 3 first-round picks, even though, I mean, Minnesota and Cleveland are going to be in the playoffs. They're not going to be lottery picks, so you're not getting anything crazy valuable, but, I mean, I guess if you're a team like the Heat who is rebuilding kind of after this Jimmy Butler trade, depending on who you get in return, I mean, Bradley Beal is still a big portion of this Jimmy Butler trade, and it depends on where he's going to go. That works out the trade. I mean, he says he's open to waiving his no-trade clause to join the Bucks, and there's supposedly a 4-team trade in the works as we speak, but I don't know. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be a league-shaking trade with this Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal, and I don't know, Yusuf Nurkic is also probably going to be on the move, so we'll see what can go on there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and talk about All-Star Weekend a little bit, some more improvers and people that have been shining this season and people that started off the season hot, but they're struggling as of late. So we'll be right back here on RDSC. I'm your host, Michael Lyons, and this is Beyond the Scoreboard.